Escape. Yes, I think you can. So hopefully you can see my screen, in which case, welcome to the virtual HE Tableau user group. Today is the 2nd of June, just in case you'd forgotten. My name's Neil Davidson. I'm the co-lead for the Tableau HE user group with Dave, Kirk from Montfort and James from Sheffield. Just to run through the agenda today, quick introduction, then we're just going to break into the tables and have a bit of some networking. We've got a couple of Tableau Doctor tables available. I know that some slots have been booked, but I think we might have some last-minute availability if you have a burning Tableau question you'd like to ask an expert. Just give either myself or Sasha from the Information Lab a nod in the chat, and we can sort something out for you. If you have arranged a Tableau Doctor session in advance, then make sure you get to your allotted slot at the right time. So that's the right table. Then we've got a session, not really by me, but by Ryan from the Information Lab, who's built a scenario modeling tool in Tableau, which we want to share. Then we're going to break back out into some more chit-chat, networking, and some more Tableau Doctor sessions. And then we'll have some closing remarks. But just before we break up into the networking, I've already done this slide, but Dave, James, and myself pull this stuff together. James is otherwise engaged at the moment, so it's just Dave and I, and we could do with some help, as you can tell by the recycling of these slides from last time, if you remember them. So if you have got a little bit of time or you are interested, you'd like to get involved, it is good fun. It's not too much work. It's just enough to keep you interested. Please let Dave or I know, and we can get you involved. If we don't hear from anyone in the next sort of little bit, we might come asking, and it'll be harder to say no then. All supported by Caroline and Adam from Tableau, Sasha and Chris from the Information Lab. Yeah, just keep in touch. Sign up for the user groups on the Tableau website, which you've probably already done. But if you do that, we can keep in touch with you. Ask questions, volunteer to speak, volunteer to organize some small group chats. If you want to have a specific table at the next event to cover one specific topic, then let us know what that might be, and we'll try and arrange it. Volunteer to be a Tableau Doctor, or maybe not even a doctor if you don't feel you've got the Tableau chops to be a Tableau Doctor, but certainly to give some feedback. People might well appreciate that, and people have flagged up in the past that they would like to get some feedback from some of their work. If you think you could do that, that would be wonderful. I've already mentioned coordinating group working sessions. Okay, so that's the next slide. Go back to your networking, head off to your Tableau Doctor session if you've got it booked, and we'll be back here at about 20 past for our session. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. And Neil is back on the main presentation screen. Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
And hear you.
Hi, Sasha. Ryan, are you joining as well? Here he is.
Hello.
Hello, Ryan. Right. Let me just share my screen. Have you got some slides, Ryan? Or are you just doing it in Tableau?
All from Tableau.
All from Tableau, right. Well, I'll share my screen with the slides, and then I'll hand over to you.
All right, sounds good to me.
It's guaranteed to work as well. No, it's not. Sorry about this. Where's there? Okay, I hope you can see my slides, my screen. We're going to talk around student number planning, scenario planning in Tableau. I've already introduced myself, but I'm Neil Davidson. I'm outside of my day job of organizing Tableau user groups. I'm the head of student reporting and analytics at the University of Nottingham. And I'm just going to introduce Ryan, really. But Ryan, we've been working with Ryan from the data school for the last 6 months on a HISA project. But Ryan loves playing with Tableau so much that he's built this scenario modeling tool in his spare time. So That's all right. I think David is on the call today. So I will admit that I was spending time with the family last night. And so this morning when I woke up and looked at Twitter, I saw a tweet from Wonky talking about the student number controls are back. And we knew this was coming. Scenario planning has been a hot topic for the last, well, since the pandemic started, really, of how institutions are going to deal with changing student demand and patterns of teaching, etc. So it's even more topical today with this 5%, everyone wanting to be able to model what 5% of their undergraduate population might look like. So we just thought we'd talk around what some of the stuff we're doing on student number planning. I bare-faced self-publicity here. We do our student number planning process at Nottingham using Alteryx, and myself and a couple of colleagues who I think might be here as well. I've not seen them, but James and Jenny and myself spoke at Alteryx Inspire a couple of years ago around how we built a student number planning model in Alteryx. It's an hour long, and we haven't got that long, so I'm going to spare you the YouTube, but feel free to go and Google it. For those of you who don't really know what student number planning is, it's very simple, really. It's a matter of answering 4 questions. How many students have we got, and how many of those are coming back? How many new students are we going to get? What are those students going to study when they're here? And how much income are we going to get for them, both their tuition fee and any money from the OFS? And I've nicked a few slides from that YouTube session, which I'm just going to run through. So how many new students do we have and how many are coming back? Well, that's fairly straightforward. That's how many students we had, and we know that many are going to come back. How many new students we're going to get? Well, we know how many are coming back, and we ask our schools to tell us how many new students they're going to recruit. And we throw those new students into our existing student population, and we come up with our student population. We then decide what they study, and we know that the students take a broad range of courses across our university. Sometimes they're joint honours, sometimes they're not. And we also know how much income we're going to get for them. And that can vary from the standard 9,250 for Nottingham up to 30,000 and way beyond that for some of our specialist medicine stages of some of our provision. So if it's all that simple, then why is it so complicated? And I think we'd all like a really simple model, but we know that everyone wants a whole lot of granularity, and the factor in the middle of that is time. So it takes us a long time in Alteryx to build a student number model, which gives us a granularity that everyone wants. And I just put this slide in because I quite like it. We could aim for simplicity, but actually we end up with something complicated. And as I always like to say to people, I think you'll find it's a bit more complicated than that even, which is a wonderful book by Ben Goldacre. So it's a really complex process, so much so that we don't allow our academic units to engage in with our model at all. It's controlled by the planning team, and no one else touches it. There's benefits of that, but one of the drawbacks of that is that we can't do simple scenario modeling because we don't roll Alteryx out to the rest of our community. It's just within the planning team. So we always wanted a way of doing that. We've tried various ways. We've had Excel spreadsheets. We've had Java-based bits in our Tableau workbook. If James is in here, James built something which was Java-based, but it was all hard to maintain and hard to develop in the first place. So Ryan got interested in parameter actions, and it all went from there. So as I hand over to Ryan, just a reminder that prediction is very difficult, especially if it's about the future. So clearly the planning team aren't going to get it right, and the academics in the schools are far better. So Ryan's built a tool which will allow our academics to do it themselves.
Yeah, thanks.
Ryan, I'm going to stop sharing now and pass over to you.
All right, super. Let me just share my screen. Perfect. Can you see Tableau, Neil?
I can.
All right, amazing. So I'll get started then. So Neil's already introduced me. I'm Ryan. I work for the Information Lab, kind of specializing in Tableau and Alteryx. And as Neil said as well, I spent my first placement at the University of Nottingham. So I was working there for 6 months, not specifically on this, but I kind of just like parameter action. So this is just something that I was tinkering on in my free time. So the dashboard that we're looking at now, the data that underpins it is based on the output of the planning model from Nottingham University. I've anonymized everything, so none of the information is sensitive. And the purpose of this dashboard is that it'll present the information that's sort of the output of the model, but then it kind of empowers users to then make their own tweaks to it. So they can either add students or take students away, and they can choose which schools that they want to add them to. So the end goal is to be able to just make changes to the model and see the impact that that's going to have in terms of the number of students and then the resulting fee income that's going to come from that. So I'll just very quickly kind of walk you through and explain all the things that we're looking at. So at the very top, I've got the university level and the school level figures. And then when you hover over them, it explains what we're looking at. So I've split it into a current forecast and an amended forecast. The reason why these are the same at the moment is because we haven't made any changes to the model yet. And then over here, I've just got a filter that lets you look through the different forecast years. So you can just click through it like that. And then as well, I think something else that I thought would be useful to add in is the ability to toggle between whether you're looking at the funding, which we're looking at now, or the student numbers. And then coming down to the bottom, I think this is where things start to get a bit interesting. This type of chart, for anyone that's not familiar with it, is called a marginal histogram. And I think what's good about this is that looking through the vertical columns, we've got the different forecast years, and then the numbers at the top, the bars tell us how many students we're expecting for those forecast years. And then going horizontally, it's broken down by the different student types. So the bars at the right-hand side show us how many students we're expecting across all 5 of the forecast years. And then how I've colored these cells in the middle is based on the percentage change. So if you hover over any one of them, it'll tell you the amount of students and the resulting funding for that specific student type in that student in the given forecast year, and then the color shows you the percentage change. So that's kind of just showing off the model as it stands. Where it comes to the fun stuff is then being able to make your own additions. So I've got these 2 menu buttons here, and how I'll expect people to use it is if you just choose a student type that you're interested in. So I'll just pick this one at the top, and then I'll leave it on biosciences for now, but there's a menu for that as well. So you can just scroll through and pick a school that's relevant. And then what these little checkboxes here let me do is actually input the figures that I want to change. So I'm happy with 20 students. The length of the course, what that denotes is essentially how many years how many forecast years in the model the students will be added for. So again, I'll just leave that at the default for now. And then this add to forecast year field, that will just control which forecast year the forecast starts from. So if I start it from forecast year 1, it'll start here. And then likewise, if I start it from forecast year 2, it'll start here. And then I've added a drop-off rate as well. So with each successive forecast year, the same number of students will get added minus, in this case, a 7% drop-off. So if I just click this button to add the selected students, then a couple of things will happen. So first of all, the headline figures will all change. So we can see straight away now that this 22,470 has been updated to 22,490 at the university level, and then the same thing at the school level. with these bars showing the amended forecast, there's this little Gantt bar here that shows you the amended figure. And I think this is quite good because you can see straight away kind of how that compares to the original one. So it's nice to just see that change as something visual rather than sort of having it lost in a spreadsheet. And then this is where the marginal histogram, I think, is quite useful as well, because now I can see how that 20 students that I've added across those 4 forecast years is being broken down when the drop-off percentage is factored in. So we can see it's 20 in the first forecast year, and then that drops to 18 in the second, 17 in the third one, and then 16 in the fourth. And what's good as well is, so now I've done that for this student type, I can decide that I want to add another one. So if I want to add on this one, I can do the same thing again. So this time I'll add 50 students, and I'll start from, or just make it a shorter course. So I'll make it a 3-year course. And then when I add that on, so this, there's a reason for this. So it's only added on to the first forecast year. And I believe if I look into the underlying data for that, the reason is going to be this particular course is only 1 year long. So that's something that kind of factors in as well. You can't necessarily make forecasts for longer than a course actually lasts. And then very quickly, if you want to just remove everything in the forecast, then just click the button to remove, and everything reverts back to normal. So that's kind of what it does. In terms of how I built it, there are kind of 2 main things that I think are important to be aware of. So parameter actions in Tableau. So for anyone that's never come across them, first of all, what a parameter is it's a variable. In fact, if I just dive, I'm going to leave presentation mode and just dive into one of the sheets that I built to help me explain it a bit better. So down here, we've got parameters. And what a parameter is, it's just a variable that you create that is accessible by the entire dashboard. So right now, what we're looking at is the parameter for my forecast years. And what a parameter action does is whenever you interact with something that's in the view, it will update the value of that parameter with the value that you've selected. So how my filter for the forecast year works is whenever I click on any of these numbers, the parameter for forecast year, so this one, is updated with that number. And then on the relevant sheets, I've got a filter. In fact, I'll just show you. So I know it's in here. So then on the relevant sheets, I've got this filter here, which just says that the forecast year has to be equal to the value of the forecast year parameter. So that's one way that you can use a parameter action for a filter. So how my dashboard works is a bit more complicated than that, but essentially it still uses the same method because I'll show you my checking table. So what I'm doing is when we make all of these selections here and then click the add button, it triggers a parameter action that takes all of this information and puts it into a string, essentially. So if I just, in fact, let me click, UGHUFT. So if I click this one, what you'll see in here, this is what the parameter actually looks like. So I've just captured all of that information from these checkboxes, and then it's just captured in a string. And then what I'm doing is using regular expression. So for anyone that's never used regex before, it's essentially a language that you use to identify patterns in text. So it's something that's really, really powerful. I think it's prevalent in pretty much every programming language. And in this case, what I'm using it for is to then pull this information back out again. So for every selection the user makes, pulling out how many students they've added and which schools they've added them to, and the other information like that. So I'll just show the calculation that does the extraction, but it's a bit of a big boy, so apologies. So the main one that does all the extraction is this new extract field. So the reason why this looks a bit convoluted is not necessarily because the regex is complicated. It was mostly just me working in the logic around if someone has been added to a course in forecast year 1, making sure that in the subsequent forecast year that number will then be added onto the second stage, and then making sure that the drop-off is calculated as well. So a bit complicated, but in essence, the main things are this new extract field, which pulls the information out. And then if I go to my UI fields, this calculated field. So what this does is when the button to add students is clicked, it just takes all of the parameters, formats them in a string like this, and kind of adds it onto the parameter. And that's essentially it. That's how it works. So yeah, any questions, or I'll just pass back over to Neil, really.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm just seeing if there's any questions. I can't see any in the chat. Yeah, okay. So thank you very much, Ryan. Hopefully, and that will certainly answer some of our problems of not being able to allow colleagues in schools and our finance colleagues to do some fairly simple scenario planning. There are factors that doesn't take into account, which we take into account in our main model. But for a lot of the basic questions of, well, how much more money would I get if I have 20 more students, then this will give them that, because it's working off sort of average income streams for different types of students. So brilliant. Okay, well, Ryan and I will be around for the next session. The next, sorry.
Oh, that looks like a tough one, Neil.
Yeah, so someone's asked on the chat if academics are actually engaging with this. We don't know yet. The ink's still dry on Ryan's dashboard. So what we do know is that people do want this level. People do want easy answers to sometimes complex questions, and knowing how much more money they might get for a bunch of students would allow them to quickly and better than a finger in the air, which is what they're doing at the minute, fill in the questions for business cases and things like that. So if that's all they get from this, and it stops them asking me, then I think this will be a big success. And I think this has got the right level of detail for those kinds of things. As I said before, when we're wanting to model, what we think is how the university is going to respond to the pandemic, or what's going to happen with various other factors, then we will model that in our main scenario detail our main student number planning model. I hope that answers that. It was fairly garbled, and apologies. David asked, now we've got details of the cap, will Ryan have to add that to the model? How would he do it? So I can carry on if you like, Ryan, because I'm probably closer to the detail than you are. David, we have already modelled what the impact of 5% additional undergraduate home students would look like on our student population. And that's the kind of thing we would probably keep in our more detailed and more sophisticated Alteryx model. I don't think we could easily add a percentage number to this model. It's about adding in what would happen if I added 10 extra students or 20 extra students, not adding 5% of a number that's not actually in this model. So I don't think we could have that in this model. This is a slightly different level of granularity than that. I think we'll see if we'll give people a couple of seconds to see if any more questions arise. Another question. How much involvement have you had with your finance departments? Are they engaging with this? Again, it's too early to know. I think I will share it with our finance colleagues. They are some of our key customers in asking what would happen if I got 10 extra students, or how much should I put in this spreadsheet for this business case for this new course, which the school reckon are going to get 50 students. So as I said, hopefully that will give them an answer without them having to ask us. Time will tell. And I think I'm going to call it a line. Ryan and I will be around in the next networking session. I think, Ryan, are you sticking around? So yeah. If you have any questions, either come and find me at one of the tables, or there's a nice feedback for you, Ryan. Carmen says the dashboard looks amazing and the functionality is impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep, indeed. So yeah, come and find us if you've got any more questions. But other than that, feel free to shift around tables. You don't need to stay at the one you've got. You can leave quietly without anyone knowing. Yeah, we'll see you at 2 or 3 minutes to 3 just to wrap up. But thank you very much.
Hello there.
Hi, Sasha.
Ready for closing remarks?
I am. No, I'm not. But yeah, I'll try and be ready as soon as I can. Sorry, just bear with me, everyone. I've lost my PowerPoint slides. Right. If I share my screen, application window, share. I'm not going to do. Yes. Okay. Right. Thank you, everyone. I hope you found that useful. I think it's always good to have a chat with fellow Tableau users around the sector and find out what people are up to. So the next steps, I've got less than a minute before I have to finish. So thank you to Ryan, to Sasha, and the Information Lab for hosting it on Remo, which I think is a wonderful bit of software. Thanks to Caroline and Adam from Tableau for helping us organize it. Thanks to you for coming. We would like to run another session fairly soon. We are running out of speakers. So if you have a Tableau story to tell, if you have a dashboard you want to talk to us about, if you have an idea for a sort of workshop or a conversation around, I don't know, Tableau. We've just been talking in Table Labs about Tableau server upgrades. People have talked in the past about whether we could have a conversation around licensing. If you have anything you'd like to talk about, then get in touch. If you want to help us organize, please get in touch. But apart from that, thanks for coming. Enjoy the sunshine. Just finally, this was due to be the day we were joining in Sheffield. We were meeting up in Sheffield for a physical day. So hopefully next year we might be able to do that. Who knows? But in the meantime, we'll look to run some more virtual sessions. Thank you very much, and speak soon. I think that this session is going to run on for another half hour. If you're in the middle of a conversation, you don't need to kill your conversation right now. You can carry on and linger around as you would at a normal conference, which is great. So thank you very much. Speak soon.